Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@usaprepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being in class with us today. Jason is engineering the broadcast at Genesis Communications Network in Minnesota. I'm Vincent Finelli. And if you'd like to call us, we'll pay for the call, 866-582-9933. 866-582-9933. Telephone listen line, up and running, 605-477-3249. We're going to be talking hour number 1 about Medicare and supplemental insurance. And we're going to be talking hour number 2 about my book, which you cannot buy yet, about the way I live, the way I do things, the way the Finellis do things, 67 years of experience plus things I learned from my father and grandfather and relatives and just by observing and trying to find better ways to do things. So that's hour number 2. So I'd like to welcome Peggy Gawley. She's a healthcare advisor for senior healthcare insurance. Welcome, Peggy.
Thank you, Vincent. Glad to be here today.
Well, it's great to be broadcasting with you again. I'd like to share with our broadcast class how we met. And so here's what happened, class. Mrs. Finelli is degreed in mathematics. She's also degreed in business administration. So she has a bachelor's degree in math, and she has an MBA, Master's in Business Administration. And she's very detailed-oriented. And so when it came time for us to engage Medicare, or they engaged us, she looked at all of our options, and she spent 2 weeks, literally 2 weeks nonstop. And it was infuriating to me that it took so long for her to navigate the morass of Medicare and supplemental insurance. It was just unbelievable. It was complex. She was receiving information that was not accurate. She was receiving information that was contradictory. And she would call Medicare and talk to their experts on the telephone, and that made it even worse because they didn't even know what they were talking about. So it was just a morass to beat the band. And it was suggested to her by one of the hospitals that she called because she wanted to make sure that the insurance plan that we selected would be honored by the hospital of our choice. And what happened if, we were traveling, those kinds of things. So it was extremely complex. And one of the people at the hospital who is in the insurance department suggested that we call Peggy. And we did. And it's been great ever since. So Peggy Gawley is with us. And she literally, this is what she does full time. She advises people on what to do about senior insurance. And if you think it's easy, it's not. So what she did was she took what we figured out and she made it better. She was able to save us money. And here's something that happened this year. So we're up for a renewal and the darn insurance goes up naturally, right? It goes up. Well, Peggy called us and said she just called the house. She calls all of her clients and said, we can do the same for less money. What do you think? Well, that's a no-brainer, right? And so, Peggy, did I say this right?
Absolutely, yes. I had probably 20 people this month that I called, and they at first couldn't believe what I was saying, but yeah, literally, as an advisor, every year in Missouri, it's state specific, but I look at other plans, and keep the same benefits, but just pay lower premiums.
Peggy, can we just take like 1 minute? What is Medicare? Who has it, and why? Why is Medicare even there?
Well, I mean, original Medicare has been around since 1952. It's intended to, I mean, you pay into this with your Social Security Trust Fund. So you've earned these benefits. Original Medicare is beautiful. I don't want to get into politics, but I will say that there is so much, there's such a push to protect original Medicare. Original Medicare is intended to pay for your medical inpatient and outpatient with little out-of-pocket costs for the Medicare beneficiary. So you've got Part A, which is hospitalization, and you've got Part B, which is anything that's outpatient. So original Medicare, if you have worked 10 years or 40 quarters, you are given original Medicare, Part A at no cost, and Part B, there's a premium. But original Medicare is intended to take care of you once you're past your retirement days. So today what I'd like to talk about is not just original Medicare, but open enrollment season is coming up October 15th to December 7th. And so this is a very crucial time for seniors to look at their plans, whether they have original Medicare or supplement, to make sure they protect it. Because every single year, as you know, Vincent, I called you up, you need an advisor, you need an advocate that's going to help you make sure that you're getting the best benefits that you can to protect your health.
Peggy, I just want to make sure our class understands. If they engage the services of someone like you, do they have to pay for this? Are you selling anything to your clients?
No, I'm not. And so it's most insurance agents that are independent, that are a broker, they don't charge you a fee. The insurance company, in most cases, will pay the insurance agent a commission. But I work for a company in which I provide a service. Anytime the sale is made, the commission goes to the organization. But I do not work on a commission structure. I'm a consultant. It's a service I provide. But yes, all insurance agents are paid typically by the insurance company a certain amount of money, but you're not, I don't charge a fee, and most agents do not charge a fee to meet with you to go over your options.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure our class was clear on that. So, class, I am not paying Peggy Gawley directly. We have bought insurance, Mrs. Finelli and I have bought insurance, but for us, the amount that we pay is certainly worth doing, because if we did not have it, we could be underwater. We could lose a lot if there were a catastrophic illness. So we're covered for that, and it's a very reasonable amount of money. And there's no payment to Peggy, and Peggy is not paying to be on the air with us. So she is just going to teach us, and there's no hidden agenda here. And I just wanted to make sure that if you heard this from somebody I trust, and that's Peggy Gawley, Gawley. Peggy, Peggy, Gawley. Peggy, is it okay if I give out your email address or not?
Yes.
Okay. So that email address is Peggy, Peggy, period, Gawley, at OLLIS, AA.com, OLLIS, So that's her email address if you wanted to contact her. Okay. So Peggy, let's continue.
Okay, so let's talk about Medicare open enrollment. And Medicare open enrollment is very confusing for seniors because, Vincent, you have a supplement that's private. It's you own it, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. But Medicare open enrollment is only for people that have a Medicare Advantage or a Medicare prescription drug plan, and I'll explain the difference. So You can join, switch, or drop a Medicare health or drug plan during open enrollment October 15th through December 7th. If you make a change during this period, then your new coverage will begin January 1. And if you're currently on Medicare and you have one of these plans, you should have already received your annual notice of change, which describes your benefits for the next year, which I will tell you, it's like reading War and Peace. It's very confusing, but your benefits change on these plans every year, so you need someone to help you navigate, whether it's your medical or your prescriptions, because all the benefits change year to year. So Medicare Advantage plans are typically, to make it simple, class, it's kind of like a group insurance where you have an HMO, you have a service, a network of doctors and hospitals that you go to. So there's an HMO, and then PPOs are where you have in and out of network benefits. So when you're on a Medicare Advantage plan, also called Part D, you can only go to the doctors, hospitals, providers that have a contract with that particular insurance company. You can't just go outside the network except for emergency and urgent care. So Medicare Advantage plans are a little bit more restrictive, so you have to be comfortable with this model. And the most important thing I will tell you about a Medicare Advantage plan, which most people don't ever even get the information, Vincent, is that you have a 12-month trial right period when you first join one. If you don't like it within the first 12 months, you can return to original Medicare. However, if you're not happy with the plan, you have a special right to buy a Medigap policy, which is what you and Mrs. Finelli have. Here's the key word, if you return within 12 months of joining. All of the insurance information you read, most of it, it's very hard to find this language. So when I sit down with someone, as I did with you, when I tell them that after 12 months, they're not able to return to original Medicare, that's a big deal for them because you need to protect your health for the rest of your life. And so knowing that you can't get off a Medicare Advantage plan is a big deal. Now, if you move away, there's situations. But, folks, let me tell you, you need to have an advocate, have somebody that's going to explain what will happen. So Medicare Advantage plans, you do not have original Medicare anymore. And what I mean by that is your Medicare A and B benefits are administered through the Advantage plan. So original Medicare is not available to you. You can only use the doctors and hospitals that participate with that insurance company. Vincent, does that make sense? Is that
Yeah, it does make sense. And class, you really need to consider having an advocate because there were some mistakes that Medicare made on our plan, and it was so complicated. It literally took hours with Peggy on the phone, me on the phone, Mrs. Finelli on the phone, and the other team on the phone. Literally hours and hours, multiple calls to get it straight. We're talking with Peggy Gawley about open enrollment Medicare. Those dates are October 15 through December 7th. That's Medicare open enrollment. Peggy, please continue.
Okay, so again, back to Medicare Advantage, and I want to be transparent. I am non-biased. I offer all types of Medicare plans, but just like Mr. and Mrs. Finelli, they were educated on every option to them, and this is specific for you, what's best for you, and what's going to keep you healthy. So Medicare Advantage plans change every year, the benefits, the copays, and in a second I'm going to talk about Part D because your prescription drug benefit for a lot of seniors, Medicare Advantage plans include a prescription drug, also called Part D, benefit So your prescriptions, if you're on a Medicare Advantage plan and you may like the benefits, you need to look at your prescriptions to make sure that they're covered year to year. So your medical and your prescriptions together are important to look at. So you can join a Medicare Advantage plan during an open enrollment period. Can you make changes to your coverage after December 7th? There's a new Medicare Advantage open enrollment period for people on a Medicare Advantage plan that's January 1 through March 31st. So what it essentially does is people that are on an Advantage plan, maybe they didn't look at it thoroughly, they get another opportunity between January 1 and March 31 to drop their plan and drop their Medicare Advantage plan and go to another one. So prescription drug coverage is called Part D, and a Medicare prescription drug plan helps pay for prescriptions because original Medicare does not cover prescription drugs, and so you can decide whether to enroll in a prescription drug plan, but when you're on Medicare, if you don't have Part D coverage, Medicare penalizes you for it. So, folks, even if you don't take any prescriptions, you do have to have prescription drug coverage. So this year, here's how the prescription drug plans work. You basically have a list of drugs that you take, and the best way to get the best prescription drug plan, seriously, if you don't have someone local like me, is to call 1-800-Medicare and have your prescription bottles next to you, and when you call Medicare, tell them you want a standalone prescription drug plan. Because if you don't have the right prescriptions with you, you're going to get misdirected. Now, when you call 1-800-Medicare, they're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They are going to take your medications, and they're going to build a prescription list, and they are going to find you the best prescription drug plan for the medications that you take. When you join a prescription drug plan, you're in it for the calendar year. You're in it from January 1 through December 31st. So, folks, this is really important because your prescription drug benefit, your prescriptions, they can change year to year.
Peggy, the average American takes almost 11 prescription drugs, almost 11, and they cost different amounts. So what we found out was that you just don't say, I want a prescription drug plan, and it's just one. It depends on what prescriptions you have as to what they will cost you and what the insurance for those drugs will cost you. So it's really complicated. And to make it even worse, you might find out that if you select a specific prescription drug plan based on the prescriptions that you take, if you were to eliminate one or add one to that list, it will affect the cost that you pay and out of pocket what you end up paying overall. In addition to that, what happens is if you were to buy, and I'm going to mention some names, but if you were to have a Walmart, if you were to go to the Walmart pharmacy, it might be one price. If you go to Walgreens, it might be another price. If you buy your prescriptions via the mail and have them delivered United States Postal Service, it could be another price. Sam's Club, another price. So there's a lot of moving parts to this. And we went through all of it with Peggy. And let's talk a little bit more about that. Talking about supplemental insurance for Medicare class with our advisor. Peggy Gawley is a USA Prepares instructor, and she's also our advisor on this topic. And I've got to tell you that the Part D, as in prescription drug coverage of Medicare, is supplemental insurance, is a very big deal. And seriously, you know, when you talk to your advisor, or if you talk to Medicare, 1-800-Medicare, you really need to have those drugs that you intend to take with you so that you can say, I'm taking this and this and this and this and this and this. And the reason is it changes the amount that you're going to be paying every month. And if you get it wrong, it can cost you a lot of money in terms of not being covered. So you need to be upfront and above board when you discuss this with your advisor. Peggy, any comments on that?
Yes, absolutely. And what you need to do, you need to have your prescriptions. You need to be very specific. You may take an inhaler, but you need to say, oh, I take that just seasonally. You know, whatever you take, you have to be specific. I take this every single month. I take this every 2 months because that's going to affect your cost for the year. And so you also want to be very specific and let Medicare know this is the pharmacy, which is what we were talking about earlier. I go to Walmart pharmacy or I go to CVS. This is huge because every single drug plan has a different list of pharmacies. Now, class, you can go to any pharmacy you want, but you have what are called preferred pharmacies and you have standard. So the preferred pharmacy is where you pay less. And I'm going to give you an illustration. I had a lady this week. We are going to change her drug plan, and if she goes to CVS, because they're preferred on her plan, 6 of her 7 medications are generics, and they will cost her nothing. So she called me up and said, Peggy, I don't want to go to CVS. I want to go to Walgreens. So I looked up her prescription drug plan, and she would have to pay about $250 a month to go to Walgreens. So I know you probably like your local pharmacy, but make sure when you call 1-800-MEDICARE and you talk to them, if you want a different pharmacy, ask them what the preferred pharmacy is for the plan that they're going to recommend for you. They're going to give you the top 3 prescription drug plans based on the medications that you give them. So ask them, what's the preferred pharmacy? And if yours is not, ask them, if I go to Walmart, what will it cost me? Because it is devastating because you're in this drug plan for the entire year. So you really, really need to pay attention to which pharmacy you go to. Mail order can be very good. A little cautionary word on the mail order. Be very protective of where your mailbox is. If your mailbox is at the end of the street, and you have any specific prescriptions, make sure that you track your prescriptions. But a lot of people, mail order may or may not save you more money. It may be very comparable to just going to your local CVS or Walgreens. But mail order, just be very careful about tracking those prescriptions.
Peggy, just as an aside, what would happen if someone were to get a 3-month supply of a prescription and say it does not arrive? What do they do?
You mean if something happens to their prescriptions? Are you
In the
talking about mail
yeah.
order?
Yeah, like they order it, they get it every month, and all of a sudden it doesn't show up as it should. Can they call and get an emergency amount to get them through until it arrives, or is it a big deal trying to prove that I didn't get it, that kind of a thing?
Yes, it is a big deal. I had it happen to one of my clients a few years ago. Here's what happened. They had a substitute mail postal person, and his prescriptions didn't arrive. And so he called his prescription drug plan, and they said, okay, Mr. Smith, we've already given you your allotted prescriptions. We can't, by law, give you any more. So what he had to do was he had to call his doctor, he had to get another prescription, and he had to pay out of pocket. He had to pay out of pocket because they've already filled your prescriptions. You know, some of them are controlled substances, et cetera. So it was, to be honest, it was kind of a nightmare because they're not going to give you double coverage. You know, the pharmacies have regulations. They can't dispense medication that's already been dispensed to you. So
Right.
mail order, you have to be really careful. Maybe if you have a P.O. box, just something that's protected. But it's very difficult if you don't get your prescriptions in the mail to have to reinvent the wheel and get those. Especially if you take, you can't just stop taking your medications. You need to, especially your maintenance ones. So I really don't recommend mail order unless you have a protected way to get those prescriptions.
Mm-hmm. And some people may think that the Postal Service employees would not steal medications, and I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced that's the case. Yeah.
No.
Okay. So, Peggy, can you share with us a story without naming names as to something that went wrong that could have been prevented so that during open enrollment our class does not make that mistake, whatever it is? Is there a story that you can share with us?
Yeah. So I can share a story with you on both the Advantage side and on the prescription drug side. So a lot of times, number one, because of open enrollment, your mailbox, the amount of solicitation that you receive in the mail is overwhelming. You're going to get invitations to go to seminars, to have, cookies and coffee and things like that. So pay attention. If you go to one of these events and you listen to somebody, you're listening to one particular insurance company. You really don't want to just like Mrs. Spinelli did. She spent all that time educating. You don't want to just go to one meeting or listen to one person and make a decision because there's too many options out there. So I had a gentleman go to a Medicare Advantage seminar who was on a supplement like you and Mrs. Spinelli are on. And so he went to the seminar, and most Medicare Advantage plans are a zero premium. You don't pay a premium, but you pay for services as you use them. So he went to the seminar, he listened, and he decided, wow, I'm paying $200 a month for my supplement. This is free. It is not free. There are co-pays, there's deductibles, there are out-of-pocket costs. So he signed up for it. He was on the plan for probably 2 years, came back to me during open enrollment, and he said, I want my supplement back. This is costing me too much because I'm going to the doctor more often. I'm having MRIs. I'm having tests. So he didn't understand that after 12 months on the trial right period, he could not return to original Medicare. And it was devastating for him. He was going through cancer treatments, and he wanted to go to MD Anderson, et cetera. So he made a bad choice by listening, just getting a small piece of information without having somebody explain all his options. So, that's why I'm so interested in sharing with the class these Medicare Advantage plans and prescription plans. They are all unique. They are all different. And you need to make sure, number one, your doctors that you see, that you can still go see those doctors because you're in a network. And so that was a devastating story. On another side, on a prescription drug plan, I had a gentleman who didn't have all of his prescription medications in order. He didn't, like I said earlier, class, you need every single medication, even if it's something you take seasonally. So he enrolled in a Medicare prescription drug plan. He didn't have all of his prescriptions. 3 months down the road, he goes to try to get one filled, and it's not covered. It's not on the formulary. So, it is so complicated. But if you have somebody that you can trust, and you can call 1-800-MEDICARE. You just need to tell them every single thing that you take, how often you take it, what your pharmacy is, who your preferred pharmacy is that you go to, so that you don't have these devastating out-of-pocket costs because this is the one time a year that you get to make these changes.
Peggy, I'm a private person other than the radio, and so I would be, and I'm sure our class is as well, for the most part, that our class is thinking, I don't want to tell somebody what medications I'm on. You know, that's private. However, this is a case where if you don't, it can cost you a small fortune. You're kind of locked in, and you really don't have a choice. And that's the way I see it, because if you end up with cancer or some debilitating, very serious illness, this could take down everything you've ever worked for and more. Isn't that right?
Yes, it is. It is. I had a gentleman call me last month. He's not my client, and he went to one of these seminars, didn't get all the information, and he said, Peggy, I have an appointment for my wife to go to Mayo Clinic. She has stage 4 cancer. I need to go. Can I go? And I said, well, what plan does she have? I won't be specific, but she was on a Medicare Advantage plan. And I said, Mr. Smith, you have to get permission. You can't go anywhere you want. And he had the appointment. She was really, really sick. So he said, I can't do this. I need that supplement back. I want to be able to go wherever I want to go. So, you know, that's another example where it was devastating, not just financially, but emotionally and everything else. So, you know, you basically have a narrow period of time when you're first eligible for Medicare to choose, like Mr. and Mrs. Finelli did, or when you're in open enrollment season, you can do that as well. Now, Vincent, I know you're a private person, and I know you don't really like technology and iPhones and all that stuff, nor do I. People that are very technical savvy, if they want to and they don't want to speak to anyone, they can go to Medicare.gov, and this is new this year. This is new. You can put your information in, and you can look at your own prescriptions without speaking to anyone, if you want to do it yourself.
All right, let's talk more about that. And what I was saying is, it's not so much talking to a person, it's releasing the information to the system that most of us are concerned about. We'll be right back with Peggy Gawley. Class, Peggy Gawley is with us, and if you'd like to contact her, it's Peggy, Peggy, G-A-W, Peggy dot Gawley at OLLISAA.com. Peggy, I have no concern discussing any of this information about our health and insurance with you in the setting of your office or here at the home. I have no concern about that at all. But my concern, and I believe that this would be the same concern as our class would have, is not discussing it with a professional such as you, but it would be the government having all this information about us. And the problem with it is I see no way out. I see no way of having insurance, being covered, and not having the government have that information in their database. I don't see a way that we can prevent it. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. In fact, during the commercial break, I was just looking at a generic Part D, every single Part D application, every single Medicare plan, Part C or D, there's a disclosure that basically says, by joining this Medicare prescription drug plan, I acknowledge that this company will release my information to Medicare and other plans as is necessary for treatment, payment, and healthcare operations. So what I'm telling you is that whether you do this when you call 1-800-Medicare and they enroll you in a drug plan, unfortunately, your information is released. Now, I challenge you, if you do call them, I haven't had anyone do this, but what if you say, I don't want that information released? I mean, you are enrolling in a government plan, and so all of these, it's either a verbal disclosure or a written. They're going to release your information, and that's where they can capture all these claims data and everything. So, yeah, be very circumspect because, in a lot of times, you don't have a choice.
Right, and that's what I was saying. So it has nothing to do with Peggy Gawley or someone in Peggy Gawley's place for you, class. The information is going to be collected by the government. It will be shared among third parties, maybe fourth parties, and you really don't know. And when you're on the phone with Medicare, they will read you an agreement, and you will have to agree to it, or you don't get the coverage. It's as simple as that. They'll say, I'm going to read this to you, and they read the script, and then they record your response. So they've got your voice saying, yeah, okay, that's good with me, and your agreement is now recorded, and who knows how long that's kept. But yeah, that's the case. So Peggy, for today, what is the action that someone should take today based on what you've taught us? What do we need to do right now? Not tomorrow, today.
What you need to do is if you have a prescription Part D drug plan, you need to, if you don't have an accurate list, go to your pharmacy, have them print you off one, go through them and say, okay, I don't take this anymore. Have a really, really accurate list of your prescriptions. If you're on a Medicare Advantage plan, you need to have the same thing because your prescription benefits are included in that Advantage plan. You need to have a list of the doctors that you see if you're on an Advantage plan to make sure that you will still be able to see them in the plan that you're on. And so October 15th through December 7th. And here's another key ingredient. And the average person wouldn't know to ask this. Medicare rates these plans every year and gives them a star rating from 1 to 5. And the star rating is an overall rating that will tell you how well that your prescription plan or Advantage plan has performed. The star rating, if you have a star rating of 3 and above, your plan has functioned very well. You can feel confident in the next year. If the star rating is below 3, if it's a 2 or a 1, if that company has a star rating of 2 or lower, Medicare is going to kind of put them on a watch list. That means they haven't priced well. So the star rating, when you talk to Medicare, ask them what's the star rating for this plan. Again, that's why I'm here, class. I want to give you these tools because you have this narrow window of opportunity to choose your plan for the next year. And Vincent, if you want to give my phone number out for those people that don't have email, I'm okay with that.
Sure. Why don't you give that out, Peggy?
It's area code 417-881-8333.
Class, there's one other thing I'd like to share with you, and we've got just a few seconds. The open enrollment date is October 15th, which is in 11 days, through December 7th. The longer you wait, the longer the line that you're going to get in. The longer the line. So, Peggy, would you say start today? And do your research?
The plans are not available. They're available now, but you can't do anything until October 15th. That's the first day that you can do something. And if you call Medicare, here's another trick. Call late at night or early in the morning. They're open 24/7, but if you want to be able to get through, don't call them Monday morning early. You can call them on a Sunday morning with your grandkids on your lap, but just, call at different hours.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Just 3 of us in the studio at the moment. A couple of Colts and me. And I'll be talking about this book. And I really don't like using that term, my book. But I don't know what else to call it. Because what I had decided to do is write down the way I've learned how to do things in what I think is a better way. Now, I may not have the best way, but I think it's better than a lot of ways that I've seen in the past. I see lots of mistakes, and I've made lots of mistakes. So I want to share with you what I think are some of the best approaches to doing things, the way we have learned how to do things. And sometimes it's been the hard way. You know, the University of Hard Knocks, or Knox University. Well, let's start with this. How many of you have in your bathroom a bathtub with shower doors? Or a shower stall, you know, with a floor pan and a shower door? How many of you have that? And why do you have that? Well, we've had them in the past. We've had a bunch of homes since Mrs. Finelli and I have been married, and we thought that was the way to go. The answer is it's not the way to go, in my opinion. So if you take those bathtub doors that slide, and that's what they do, they slide, well, there's a track, and water gets in the track, and soap gets in the track, and shampoo and conditioner get in the track. And it's just a great place for mold and mildew to hide and grow and thrive. So then you have to clean it. And it's hard to reach. And sometimes to do it right, to clean it right, you have to take the door off. What a nuisance that is. So when we built our farmhouse, starting in 2005, we did not put shower doors or tub doors in. What we did instead was we put in a shower curtain. Now think about this. How many times have you seen shower curtains available for sale at the big box store or the Chinese factory outlet or whatever? And what's it made out of? Almost always it's made out of the same thing, vinyl. And the great thing about it is water can't get through it, get on the floor. But what happens is the water and the soap or the bath bar, whatever you happen to use in that shower, mixes with the water, gets on the inside of the vinyl shower curtain, and it becomes sticky and mold starts growing. So what's sold is a mold-resistant shower curtain made out of vinyl. And so what do they cost? About $8. But we don't have those either. So what do we do? Well, I noticed decades ago that hotels and motels mostly don't use vinyl shower curtains. Now, why is that? Well, they found a better way. But what is that? Well, it's not a shower curtain per se. It's a liner. It's called a liner. So they have this really nice, in an upscale hotel, for example, they'll have a shower curtain, which is a nice looking thing. And on the inside, the part that contacts the water is the liner. Now, those are made of two materials, one or the other, rayon or nylon. And they're very lightweight. And if you looked at it, you'd say, no way, it won't work. It absolutely won't work. This is going to get water sprayed all over the bathroom walls, the floor, from the shower head. That's not the case. So what happens if you buy one of these nylon fabric liners, shower curtain liners, or a rayon fabric shower curtain liner, it's going to cost about $10, maybe a few dollars more. And what happens is they get wet. And when they get wet, water doesn't go through them. So there's going to be no water coming through on the floor or on the walls. It's as good at preventing water from getting out of the shower or tub area as a vinyl shower curtain. But the problem with the vinyl is it's always wet on the inside. And if it folds upon itself, it's a great place for mold and mildew to grow. But the case with the fabric nylon or fabric rayon liner is you can spread it out, air can get around it, and it'll dry in a couple minutes. And it's because it dries so quickly that mold and mildew don't grow on it as easily. And what you can do is every couple of weeks, or whatever frequency you determine is the right frequency, you can throw it in the washing machine. And what I do is I put it in the washing machine, or Mrs. Finelli does, and we put it on that gentle cycle, It's the only thing we put in there. We wash it, rinse it, and hang it back up in the shower. And it's good to go. And it's dried in a few minutes again. Or if you want, you can hang it outside on a clothesline, which is something that you should have anyway. So that's my thought on shower curtains. What a great way to go. And you won't see the mold and mildew that you will with vinyl. And it will cost you a couple dollars more. And when I say a couple, I mean a couple, like two. So $8 for a vinyl one that's going to last a couple years, or $10, maybe a little bit more depending on where you buy it. And you can buy it on the internet. Get the heaviest one you can. I'm talking about nylon or rayon fabric. And get it with the eyelets. And look at how much it weighs. So what the Chinese do, they're great at building things with less material. So if you can, look at the weights of the actual product and see if you can get the heaviest one. Make sure you measure and get the right length and width. And I think you'll be impressed. So the question now is, how long do they last? I don't know. Why don't I know? Well, we've only had ours for 15 years. And they still look almost new. How's that possible? Have you considered that your shower curtain, if it were a vinyl type, would last 15 years? Is that possible? Of course not. So why buy a vinyl one? So you've just bought your last vinyl shower curtain. Now, what color do you get? Well, we have two. We have one that's white, and we have one that is kind of just a light tan, very, very light tan. Might be called ivory. I suggest you get the ivory one. And I'll tell you why. If you have iron in the water, it will change the color of your white one to tan anyway. So you might want to just get the tan one. And if you wash it every couple of weeks, it probably won't stain. Which is better, nylon or rayon? I don't know. Either one is fine with me. I suppose I would prefer the nylon one. And you will be impressed. And again, when you wash it, you can use the same detergent that you normally use for your clothes washing. Use very little. Gentle cycle. Gentle, gentle, gentle. That way you won't tear it up. Because it's a thin fabric. So, shower doors, I think that's a bad choice. Now, this is the kind of thing you need to know if you're going to build a house. No shower doors, and use a shower curtain made out of a liner rather than a vinyl shower curtain. And so there's an old saying, and I saw this on television many, many years ago. There was an ad when there was a real estate investor type seminar. And Robert Allen was the guy promoting this real estate seminar. And he said in this commercial, there was a shot of him on camera, and he said, I'm going to tell you a secret. If you don't want to be poor, watch what poor people do, and don't do it. And so if you look at it, you can look at it that way, or you can look at it, if you want to do it better, look at what other people do, and try to figure out why, and does it make sense for you? So what I did is I looked at motels and hotels. I thought, gosh, they've got a huge problem with these shower curtains. What'd they do? What they did was they went to vinyl or rayon. I'm sorry, nylon or rayon. So that was the thought there. What about pots and pans? Well, I've seen lots of pots and pans over the years, and I cook and I clean them. And so I'm interested in pots and pans that are easy to clean, that work well, that last a long time, that don't break. So what would that be? Well, aluminum is out. There's no way we're going to cook with aluminum because aluminum is toxic. If you're making spaghetti sauce that's acidic and you are simmering that spaghetti sauce, you've browned the meat, the ground beef, and you put in the tomato sauce and the peppers and the onions and the spices, and then you simmer it for an hour or two or three or four, whatever it is. the last thing you want to do is cook that in aluminum, because the acid in the tomatoes will dissolve the aluminum into the spaghetti sauce. So there you go with having aluminum with your spaghetti dinner, which is toxic, the aluminum. We know there's a link to Alzheimer's. And I don't think any of us can afford, especially me, can afford losing gray matter. I'm not interested in doing that. So we don't use aluminum pots and pans here. So what is the best? Well, there's all kinds of brands, and there are all kinds of technologies. So stainless steel is a great way to go. So what's the best way what's the best within stainless steel? Well, you'll find these multiple layered aluminum discs mechanically attached to the bottom of a stainless steel pan for better heat distribution. I got to tell you, I think it's nonsense. I've seen them, and what happens is the mechanical adhesion of these aluminum discs on the bottom of a stainless steel pan don't adhere all that well. So now you have hot spots. It makes it worse. So what do? I think there's only one solution. And that solution is Revere Ware. I believe that Revere Ware pots and pans, the ones that were made in the United States, and I'm talking like the 1960s, the 1970s, possibly into the 80s, but not so much into the 80s, the 60s and the 70s, they were the best ever made. And so what Revere did was they figured out that stainless steel was the way to go for the construction of the pots and the pans. But they wanted to have a more even distribution of heat. So what is a good metal for distributing heat, conducting heat? Well, that'd be copper, right? So they electroplated copper onto the bottoms of these stainless steel pans. And that was the best way to go. So what I do is I look for Revere Ware. We'll be right back. I'll tell you a little bit more about it. So we're talking about the best pots and pans, and in my opinion, the best value for the long run is Revere Ware. And Revere, the best years to buy Revere was up to 1968. After that, the accountants raised their hand and said, hey, don't forget about me. And the quality suffered. The thickness of the stainless steel got thinner. The amount of copper plating on the bottom got thinner. As a matter of fact, at one time, Revere, using the name Revere, if you look at it, you'd say, wow, it's the copper bottom, that's Revere. They were made in Indonesia. They removed so much material from the construction of the pots that a small sauce pot, like a quart, was so lightweight that it wouldn't even sit without falling over all by itself. So, for example, you would place it on the counter and it would fall because the handle was heavier than the stainless steel plus the copper, and it would fall toward the handle. So literally you had to put something in the pan to keep it lying flat. That's how much quality they've taken out. So the ones you want to buy are the old ones, and you can buy them from, and I do, from $3 to maybe $6 to $9, depending on the size. And I've been collecting them for our family. So if I go to a junk store and I happen to see them, and the price is really good, like $3, $4, $5, $6, I'll buy it. Now, a lot of times, they're really grungy looking. They're burned. The previous owner didn't take very good care of it, didn't clean it so well, and it's got this black, thick buildup on the bottom. Well, that's not going to cause the pan not to work so well, or the pot. The heat won't be evenly distributed because that black thick layer of burned-on grease will insulate parts of the bottom of the pan, so you'll have uneven heating. So what do? What's the way to clean that? Well, it's really easy. I mean, it's really easy. So let's say you can get a nice 6-quart, 5.5-quart Revere pot with a lid. It's in good shape. And you check in the inside to see if it's pitted. See if any of the stainless steel wore through to the copper plating. If it has, you don't want it. So just look for pitting on the inside. But if it's a USA-made one and it feels heavy to you, then you ought to consider, even if it has this crud on the bottom. So how do you get it off? There's 2 ways I found. And it's pretty easy. So what you do is you take the pot and you turn it upside down and put it in the sink. And you wet the bottom of the pot. And you get some salt, and I'm just talking about regular table salt, nothing special. And you spread it on the bottom of the pan. And you add some baking soda to that. So let's say 50-50 salt and baking soda. And you make like a paste, and you leave it on there for a while. I don't know, 15 minutes. And then you use one of those stainless steel type scrubbers, or you use a Scotch-Brite type pad, and you scrub. And by letting it set for a while, you loosen the adhesion of that black crud, and it works great. But you don't want to remove the copper, so you want to be careful just to work on the black crud. Another way that I found that's equally as good is, and one other thing you can do, if you want to let it soak for a while longer, you can take a washcloth and you can put the washcloth over the paste that you've spread around the bottom of the pan and dampen that washcloth. So the washcloth keeps the moisture in of the paste that you've made out of the common table salt and the baking soda. And you can let that set for an hour or 2 or 3 or overnight, whatever you choose. And it'll make it a little bit easier. There's another way. And I haven't seen this on the internet, but I've experimented with it, and it works great. What I do is we have, in our kitchen, we have one of those liquid soap dispensers. And right next to that, we have Fast Orange, a Fast Orange dispenser, because we're always greasy. And we use it all the time. And I'll tell you how Fast Orange works on these Revere Ware pans that you get with the crud on them. We'll be right back. So I'm telling you about the way I do things and things I've discovered and learned. And specifically, we're talking about Revere Ware, which I believe is the finest value, the best value overall for longevity, utility, cleaning, ease of cleaning, everything you possibly think of. Is really well thought out. So when you buy used Revere Ware, and that's what I suggest you do, because the new Revere Ware is not as thick, it's not as good, it's not as durable, it's not worth having, in my opinion. I've used Fast Orange. Now, the idea is you need to have something that's abrasive to scrub off this crud that the previous owner didn't know about, how to get it off there. So the salt and the baking soda are abrasive, and some elbow grease will get that off. Also, I've experimented with what's better, that or Fast Orange. And Fast Orange is that hand cleaner that mechanics use to get grease off. So I've applied Fast Orange. I've spread it around with one of those stainless steel scrubbers on the bottom of a used Revere Ware pot that was really, really grungy and caked with this black layer of grease, burned on grease, that won't come off, usually. I've applied Fast Orange, spread it around with the stainless steel scrubber. I've let it set, 15 minutes. Then I add some more, come back and scrub it, elbow grease type, and it comes right off. Now, you want to be careful, again, that you don't want to remove too much of that copper. Now, some of it's going to come off. But what you're going to see when you use the Fast Orange, that pan is going to look brand new. It'll look well maintained, and it'll look brand new. The problem is you're not going to be able to buy one that is of quality that's brand new. So if you're going to buy one of these Revere Ware pots and pans, or a set of them, you're going to find out that you're going to have to buy them used because they don't make them anymore. So what don't I like about pots and pans? Well, I don't like rivets on the cooking surface. So sometimes you see these spaghetti pots, for boiling water, for putting pasta in, and they've got these metal handles. But the handles are riveted on. And they usually use aluminum for the rivets. Now sometimes the rivets have a cap on the inside, which is stainless steel, but they don't completely cover the aluminum rivet. So now you still have aluminum contacting the food that you're cooking. So I don't like that. I don't like Tefal, that Teflon-like material. And I don't like Teflon. I believe, it's my opinion, that Teflon is toxic. It's dangerous. It's a carcinogen, in my opinion. So I don't want to use that. Now here's the question I have. If Teflon is so sticky that food won't stick to it when it's heated, how does the Teflon stick to the stainless steel or aluminum pan? How's that possible? Usually it's aluminum. How does it stick? I have a feeling it doesn't. And I have a feeling that with heat, the Teflon volatilizes, gets into the food, and you get to have some Teflon with that egg or that French toast or whatever the heck it is that, we're making. And I don't like aluminum pots and pans, period. Now, the only thing that I would use an aluminum pot and pan for, actually a pot, would be for those special cases where it's the right size to change the oil on a lawnmower. I might use it for that, but I wouldn't use it for watering my dog. I wouldn't use it for cooking dog food. I wouldn't use it for the cats. I wouldn't use it for any animal. It's toxic. So that's my thought on aluminum and pots and pans. So the way to look at Revere, it's really easy to clean, and it lasts a long time. And the secret to cleaning pots and pans is soon. So the minute we're done using a pot or a pan, goes in the sink, and we clean it. And the best cleaning tool that I've found is one of these stainless steel scrubbers, and they last a long time. I'm talking maybe a couple months if you're gentle with them. So we use those. We use a couple drops of dishwashing liquid, and we scrub the inside, the outside. We rinse, and we put it in one of those drying racks. And underneath the drying rack is a towel or some padded material that absorbs the water so it doesn't sit on the counter. And that's the way to do it. And what we don't do is we don't put pots and pans in the dishwasher because the dishwasher is hard on them. It's hard on the handles. If you use Revere Ware, the dishwashing detergent is really hard on those Bakelite type black handles on the pots and the knobs on the lid. So that's our thought on pots and pans. Let's talk about aluminum that you consume. Well, you know that cans of soda, they're aluminum. It's crazy to drink them, right? So you know all about that. So we're not going to talk about that. Well, let's talk about something you should never do. You should never drink hot water from the tap. Any tap. Most hot water heaters are made out of these cylinders of steel. Now, there are these instant hot water heaters that may be a stainless steel tank. I don't know. Or maybe these on-demand hot water heaters that have a stainless steel heat exchanger. I don't know. I don't have one. What we do have is the old-fashioned, conventional, cylindrical hot water tank. We have a couple of them. One of them is 50 gallons. The other is 80 gallons. And let me tell you a little bit about hot water heaters. I wanted to buy the very best we could buy. It's a pain in the neck to get a hot water heater. Let's say you have it in the basement. It's a pain in the neck to get a 50-gallon hot water heater down the stairs. It's a pain in the neck to get an 80-gallon hot water heater down the stairs. It takes two people. And when they fail, it's going to take two people to get it out, and you have to get another one. So I didn't want to do that. So what I did was I researched what I thought was the best. And I ended up at Lowe's and I bought a Whirlpool hot water heater, lifetime guarantee. It had better controls, it had better insulation, it looked better, and it was about 25% more for a lifetime guarantee than, let's say, their 12-year guaranteed hot water heater. So I bought a 50 and I bought an 80. A couple of years ago, the 80 started leaking. And on the side of the hot water heater, it said, "Don't bring this back to the store where you bought it. Call 1-800 and the number." And it happened to be the manufacturer of the water heater. And I said, "I've got this water heater." And he said, what's the model number? What's the serial number? I gave it to him. He said, "Okay, what's it doing?" I said, "It's leaking all over the floor." He said, "Well, try this." And he had me take off a cover. And he says, "Is it leaking there?" No, it's not leaking out of the element port, the screw-in port for the electric element. Nope, it's not leaking there. How about the other one? There's two of them. Nope, not leaking there. He said, "Where's it leaking?" I said, "It's leaking out the bottom." He said, "Okay, it looks like you have a tank leak." I said, "Yeah, that's what I thought." And I said, "So what do I do?" And he said, "Well, I'm going to give you a return merchandise authorization. All right? And bring this back to Lowe's." And what are they going to do for me? Well, they're going to give you another hot water heater, and you get to choose. And you can get the 6-year hot water heater or the 12-year hot water heater. I said, "I want one of those. I want one just like the one I had, a lifetime guarantee." He said, "We don't make them anymore." We don't make them anymore. Wow. So I thought I was doing the right thing by buying Lowe's Best, manufactured by Whirlpool. They don't make them anymore. I can't get one. So the last thing I want to do is put in a 12-year hot water heater that I'm going to have to replace again. And I got to tell you that if you were to have a plumber install a hot water heater like this, the labor is going to be over $500. So if the hot water heater is now, let's say, $600 or $700, you're looking at over $1,000 for a hot water heater. It's crazy. So, of course, I had lots of questions for this technical support person at the factory that makes the water heaters. And I said, "So what's the difference between the lifetime hot water heater that I bought, the tank, the steel tank with the porcelain lining, which they call a glass liner? What's the difference between that and the 12-year one that you also make? That's a different color on the outside." He said, "The warranty." I said, hold it. Are you telling me that the tank is exactly the same for the lifetime warranty and the 12-year warranty? He said, "Yeah, it's the same tank." I said, "What about the 6-year?" "It's the same tank." So the 6-year, the 12-year, and the lifetime warranty, hot water heaters, all the same tank. So here I thought I was doing the right thing by buying the best. I thought it was better construction. I thought it would last longer. The difference is the warranty. You're paying for a longer warranty on the same tank. Can you imagine that? Now, the controls are a little different. The controls on the lifetime hot water heater are electronic, and you have better control of how you control the temperature of that hot water heater. So you have little knobs on the top that you can say, make it a little bit warmer, make it a little bit cooler. It's got some lights that tell you it's working properly. But that's the main difference. Now, what did I do? Well, I went to Lowe's and I said, here's my RMA from the factory. I would like another lifetime warranty hot water heater. We don't offer them. Huh. What do you offer? 12-year and a 6-year. And we'll give you one of those. Why would I want one of those? So they gave me my money back based on the current price, the last price that they had of the lifetime hot water heater. And what did I buy? Well, I'm certainly not going to go back to Lowe's and buy a hot water heater, right? So I did some research, and I found what I thought was the best hot water heater available now. And what is it? Well, it's made by Westinghouse, and it's all stainless steel. So there's no steel tank to rust out. And here's something really interesting. With all these steel tank hot water heaters, they know that the tank is going to fail. They know it. It's just a question of when and how long they're going to guarantee it for. What they do is to slow the failure of the tank, to slow the leaking of the tank, which is going to happen because municipal water is corrosive. It's aggressive because they add chlorine and fluoride. It's aggressive water, and it wants to eat the tank. So what the manufacturers do is they put in a sacrificial element inside the hot water heater. So the water aggressively eats this sacrificial element first, before it eats the tank. I'll tell you about what that is and why this is so dangerous and why you should never drink hot water from the tap. We'll be right back. So I was thinking that I'm going to reserve Friday, hour number 2, for monologues, just me, a couple of Colts, and talk about preparedness tips, the things that I've got in these spiral-bound binders. And the way this works, class, is as I go through my day, I think, I start doing something. I go, you know what? I ought to write that down. So I race into the studio and I jot down just some quick notes about that topic that I don't think is in the book yet. So I got a bunch of these spiral-bound binders, and I just keep adding to it. And that's the book. But is it going to be published? I don't know. I don't know if I want to do that or not. But I did want to pass along some of these tips on the broadcast. And I think Friday, hour number 2, is when I'm going to do it. I don't, even though I was trained to have goals, as a management student and at the universities, I don't have goals. In terms of radio, I have no goals. I have no aspirations. I don't want to be at a certain level, a certain number of people paying attention to us. I don't have any of that. And I don't have any timetable. I don't know when I'm going to stop, or I've none of that. I just do what I do, and if it works, fine. If I get fired, okay, then I'm retired. If it continues, that's great too. So I don't want you to think I'm not thankful for the opportunities. I really am. But I have no goals to be, the biggest. I have no goals of any kind like that. But I would like to be the best at what we do and the way we do it. And I don't mean me. I mean USA Prepares. I think it'd be nice to really do a good job. And I'm going to raise the expectations that I have for the instructors. I'm going to raise them. So back to hot water heaters. Aggressive water, municipal water, even some well water that is either acidic or basic can corrode those steel tanks. So what the manufacturers do is they put in these aluminum rods. The rods are about just shorter than the height of the hot water heater. So if your hot water heater is 60 inches tall, the rod might be 58. And it's about 5/8 of an inch in diameter, about the diameter of a penny. And it's that length that I just mentioned, almost the full length or the full height of the hot water heater. And it's screwed in there, and the water attacks whatever's easiest. And that's this aluminum rod. So the aluminum rod gets dissolved. Now we're talking about an enormous amount of aluminum getting dissolved in the water. That would be the hot water heater. So when you bathe in it, you're bathing in an aluminum solution. Dilute, yes, but it's still aluminum. If you drink hot water out of the tap and you go, you know what, I'm not going to heat water. I'm just going to run it the tap till it's hot. I'm going to put a tea bag in there and I'm good to go. Or hot chocolate, it's crazy because of the aluminum content. So eventually, in a couple years, that aluminum rod is fully depleted. Gone. It's mixed with the water that you've used over those couple of years. Your hot water heater manufacturer will tell you, yeah, you need to replace that. But how many people have ever done that? How many plumbers have you ever talked to that said, hey, don't forget, it's 2 years now, or in 2 years from now, replace this? They don't tell you because they don't even know. So that is the situation. So you can replace that aluminum rod, that anode rod yourself if you want. It's going to take a big breaker bar. It's going to take somebody that can hold that hot water heater from spinning around, and it's going to take a big wrench on that hex nut on the top of the hot water heater. It's a big nut that looks like it's a plug. It doesn't go anywhere. Except there was an aluminum rod attached to it. So you unscrew that, and before you do that, you measure your hot water heater height, and you can buy an anode replacement. But you don't want to buy an aluminum one. That'd be crazy, right? So you buy the magnesium one. And how do you tell the difference? Well, the aluminum one is flat across the top of that hex nut, or hex plug. The magnesium one is rounded, kind of like a sphere, a part of a sphere. It's rounded, like a dome on top of that nut. That would be the magnesium one. It's going to be about $20. Now, here's the real important thing. Your hot water heater manufacturer put a drain valve at the bottom of your hot water heater for a specific couple of purposes. One is when you go to replace it, you can drain out the water so it's not so heavy. Two, you're supposed to flush out the hot water heater once a month. Let me say it a different way. Once a month. So you connect a hose, a garden hose, a clean one, to your drain valve, and you open it up and you flush it for a couple of minutes. And that will flush all the chunks of aluminum and the aluminum salts that are in the bottom of your hot water heater. And if you were to put it in a bucket, you wouldn't believe the stuff that comes out. You'd say, I'm drinking that? Seriously, it will look like chunks of rock salt mixed with water, undissolved rock salt. That's what it's going to look like. So flush it out once a month. You'll find out that your hot water heater works better, and you'll be protecting your health at the same time. And when it comes time to replace your hot water heater, don't buy one that has an aluminum anode in it. Buy a stainless steel one. It'll cost a little bit more, but you won't have to buy another one. And the stainless steel ones don't have anodes. Why? Because they don't need them. That's the way to go, and that's what we did. And the brand that we bought, Westinghouse, a lifetime guarantee. Who knows if that's any good? But they may go out of business. They may say, we don't make them anymore. I don't know, but I'd rather have stainless steel than steel. Class, above all, honesty and integrity. What happens next is up to you.